So you said this well-paid corporate job is too hard. I'm going to start my own business.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
What made you get into the business in the first place?
So,
Tell me more. Like, what were you seeking? What were you actually looking for?
from when I was young, I always liked building stuff, and that just resonated with me.
Were you always had the idea that you were going to buy other businesses?
In the beginning, definitely not.
How did you make your decision in regards to like who is required next in the business?
Well,
So walk me through kind of like the structure of your teams.
so
What does the next stage and where are you taking your business?
I'm doing two things at the same time, really. Hi, how are you?
David, what is up? How are you?
Pretty good.
Nice, nice. How's your week going so far?
Busy, as always, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
But, everything good. So,
So good. Well, David, for the people listening at home, tell me whereabouts are you based and what kind of work does your business do?
okay. Well, originally I'm from Holland, from Europe, but I've moved to the US, and right now we're located in South Carolina, right at the border at North Carolina. So I do work North Carolina, South Carolina, some Georgia, and mainly general contracting, but we're focusing on the affluent homeowners who have lake houses. So we basically deal with people with larger houses who have docks and boat houses and boat lifts, and we're basically, doing anything in that area, providing them what they want. So we go all the way from the boathouse and building their custom home if they need to.
Amazing. So you service a really large territory because, there's boathouses on the water, but there's boathouses on like the lakes are all over. Like, how big is the territory that you're servicing?
So we do about a 150-mile radius from my from one of my shops. It's about 40 different lakes we service. There's some very small lakes and there is some bigger lakes, but I try to focus on the smaller lakes. All my crews are set up to travel,
Mhm.
so they can, like, some jobs are short, so they can basically get their boat in the water, get out, and be back in the same day. And if it's a longer requirements, we have travel trailers and they can go and stick around and finish the work that way. And then at some lakes, we have a permanent base where we just have crews and subs that service that lake.
Yeah, amazing. So tell me more a little bit about like what made you get into the business in the first place. So h how long you been in South Carolina for?
So I used to be in the corporate business. I was in the plastic packaging business, doing operational excellence. Um, doing a lot of medical device and food packaging and those kind of things. Worked with big customers like Johnson and Johnson and Coca-Cola, Procter Gamble, and I basically had global responsibilities. But I didn't really enjoy working in the corporate business because it's always about the numbers for the next week and not always making the right decisions. And my travel was just totally crazy. So eventually I decided that, no more travel and just, you know, stay at home every night and do
I
something
know.
different.
So let me hear this right. So you said this well-paid corporate job with an expense card is too hard. I'm going to start my own business.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I had my global jobs. I had to travel 3 weeks a month to Europe and then 1 week a month to the Americas. So I was basically 3 weeks in Europe, 1 week in the US or South America or Canada, and basically home 2 days a week. And at one point, I got a call from the CEO from Delta, congratulating me that I was in the top 1% flyers in the world. And I was like, well, I don't really want to be that guy. So then I decided I need to do something else. So I started looking at what kind of businesses are out there, what would I like to do, and there was several out there that I didn't really, enjoy, or I wouldn't enjoy doing. Like there was like a ball bearing company, and there was like an electric company, and a chemical company, and I looked at all those, and I really couldn't find myself doing that. And then I ran into this little company. There was just one guy and his helper, and they were doing this stuff at the lake, and they brought me out in the boat and go visit customers, and all these customers were buying like big yachts and boats, and they were all excited about their boat, and then they wanted a dock and they wanted help with the property, and just the whole atmosphere and going from where people are in the corporate world always like negative and you know it's just not a very good environment, especially if you do private equity.
Mm.
But going then from this environment where you have homeowners that are always excited to talk to you and they're very excited about their project, and it was just very good atmosphere, and it's like, well, that's something I like to do. So
Yeah. Yeah. And beautiful projects as well. Like, your office being, well, being on the lake and your crews being
right,
able to go around and things like that. Like
right,
it's kind of like the equivalent of a corner office, right? Big windows
right.
and,
But
really,
at the time, it was kind of like retirement. So I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to puddle around and, build a dock here and there myself. And then it just kept growing. So,
funny that. So, before we move into like the present and the structure of your teams and stuff, I just want to pull on a couple of threads around your past. Like, top 1% flyer, didn't want to be that guy. Was
right.
it private? You mentioned private equity there. So, like, was that part of the role, part of the gig?
Well, the company I worked for was owned by private equity. So in the boardroom, there was like private equity was there. The CEO worked for private equity, but everybody else in our company was not. This was like a $1 billion company. So, it was just a big step, big company,
Yeah, yeah.
120 manufacturing plants.
Yeah, sure. You get lost in a balance sheet and a P&L and a budget for a week and a quarter and a month and a year, and it all becomes a bit of a rounding error, right?
But very cutthroat type of environment. So,
Yeah, yeah. My wife is a teacher and she taught at an international school, and private equity bought the school. So like coming from New Zealand, we were like, wait, people buy schools? Like this
right,
is interesting. And the first thing they did within the first month after the school being purchased was they just cut expenses by 30%. Um, and my wife was said, no, I, I'm going to go look for another job somewhere else. I'm not taking a 30% pay cut, and
right,
moved on. But it was an interesting perspective to see the ruthlessness of making money out of shuffling stuff around. We buy school A, we cut expenses, we pair it or bundle it with school B. We now have a
right.
larger plot of land, a bigger role, and a higher multiple, and we sell it to the next, person that rolls schools up. It's an interesting
Okay.
different take and perspective from kind of the business that you're in now. So like, I mean, I can probably personally connect the dots and understand why you wanted to step from a boardroom to a boat a boat on the lake. But tell me more, like, what were you seeking? What were you actually looking for in not the ball bearing company? You liked this one. These people
Right.
had beautiful homes and stuff, but like, what were you looking for ultimately? Like, why did you start, but like, get into it?
Well, from when I was young, I always liked building stuff, and that just resonated with me. Um, so I was looking basically to find a smaller business I can grow, and then maybe eventually as a legacy thing, have it for my kids later on.
Hmm.
Um, so, that was kind of the end goal, is how can I build something, and it's kind of proved to myself that I can do it too. It's easy if you work for a big company where the money is unlimited, basically. So if you have an idea, you just go do it.
Yes.
Whereas now it's all about the cash, right? So if you don't have the cash, you really can't do it. So you have to be very smart about what kind of decisions you make and how you manage your money, and how fast you can grow, because you can only grow at the speed of cash. So
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Cash is oxygen, right? A lot of businesses don't go out of business because they actually have low margins. They go out of business because they run out of cash. They run out of
right,
cash because they have low margins, but it's not that, they just run out of oxygen, right? So coming from that mindset to playing with your own money sort of thing, and correct me if I'm completely off here, but like you've had a successful career in corporate. It could be tempting to dip into your pocket and go, oh, actually, we can fund this. We're going to invest into that. I'm going to pour some money into the business. Like having a handbrake
Right.
or a financial control in place. Did you have to set anything like that up when you started?
Um, well, I try to start it really with like very little money, and then I wanted to make sure that I don't put any of my own money into it, which is really hard, especially in the beginning. We were very small. We were doing like $400,000 a year. I was basically not taking a salary. I was like just trying to get by, and you think 400,000 is a reasonable amount of money, but it's really not. So, and then everything you want to buy something, you don't have the money for it. So that was tough. And then it's hard to say, well, I got some cash here, so I could just use it for buying another truck, or which I did a couple times, but then I really didn't want to do that. So
Yeah.
it's just hard.
So walk me through kind of like the structure of your teams and how you've chosen to set things up in terms of like contractors, employees, crews that roam and move and things like that.
Right. So in my so I have like right now I have three locations.
Yes.
Um, and then one location they're basically doing it's kind of like manufacturing. So it's like a welding shop, right? So we weld aluminum and steel frames. So it's very much a production type environment. So the welding frames, the putting the frames together. I have an engineer who basically designs it, then a professional engineer who stamps it off. And then the guys in the shop that weld it. Once it's welded, it goes outside to get painted or get floated, and then they put decking on it. And when it's all ready to go, they put it on trailers. And then I have a lake crew that's specifically building docks. They come out and they take the trailers and they go out to the job and they install it. So those kind of jobs from start to finish are maybe a week. So the shop crew is about 10 guys or so, and then the lake crew who does specifically docks, they're four guys. And then I have other lake crews who do other type of work. So I always try to think of the business as um, value streams, right? So these guys only do docks, and these guys only do boat lifts, and these guys only do repair work. So that way you can keep it straight and you can keep your schedule separated. Um, but then again, those guys can also go and help my other locations too.
Yeah. But it allows you to
Um,
streamline operations, have people
right,
that are like more specialists in being able to
right,
turn because context switching as business owners as well is like tough. You go from
right.
looking at the numbers to looking at the marketing to looking at the sales to looking at the clients to look and like that
Right.
context switching is difficult. It's the same for the crews. If they're going
For
from
the
project
cruise,
A,
yeah.
B, C, and D, you can't
Yeah,
dial.
we grew into that. So before it wasn't like that. Before everybody did everything, and then that was always like that was chaos. So that didn't work that well.
Yeah,
But
sure.
but then in the office, I have like a branch manager who manages the location. I have an operations manager who manages all the production. He's kind of also I have two superintendents, one for the lake, one for the shop, and he manages that group. And then I have a sales guy who manages the main dock sales over the whole area.
Got it. Got it. Interesting.
And then my other location, I have a project manager, and then I have a crew, and then they use all different sub crews, subcontractors, like for framing and electric and all these other things. They have all kinds of subcontractors.
Sure.
And then over there, I use an estimator. And my other location, I basically have a branch manager and crews. So, and then
Amazing.
currently I'm buying a place, and they basically have also a branch manager, an operations manager, and they have five crews of five guys. So they have 25.
So many things I would like to understand. So, for starters, how have you decided at what point and who comes in? Because, like, between sales and an estimator and a branch manager, how did you make your decision in regards to like who is required next in the business?
Well, originally I was doing it all myself, and then eventually I ran out of hours. So that didn't work, that didn't work too well.
Yeah,
So then I had to think about, what are like looking at what are the things I'm doing, and what do I like to do? What am I good at? And then what are the things I don't like to do? And then I decided, the first thing I needed to do is hire a salesperson because
Sure.
that's something I don't want to do. I'm good at it, but it's not like, I don't like doing it. Because I'm very much like a process guy. So
Got it.
sales is like not my favorite thing to do. So I hired a sales guy, which actually went good because like the sales went up immediately because there was somebody focused on doing that all the time.
And somebody that presumably loved doing it because like
Yeah,
it's kind of a particularly in sales what I have seen is that it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say you're bad at sales, guess what, you're probably bad at sales.
right,
It's the same with people that say that they're bad at numbers. They go, oh, I don't know my numbers. It's like, yeah, because you keep saying you're bad at numbers. Like if you actually just spent 20 hours trying to learn this stuff, you'd probably be significantly better at numbers. And if you enjoyed it, you'd be really good at numbers. So it makes total sense that sales went up when you decided to make that decision to get out
right.
of it. Mm,
So then the next then what happened is I started working more in the operations side. So I started working with the crews and making SOPs and telling them what to do and how to do it and checking on their work. And I was basically the superintendent, supervisor, operations guy, engineer, doing it all. And then it's like, well, I really need to have somebody else do this because I can keep doing this. So I
mm.
hired me an operations guy to manage all that. And then what happened is I started doing a whole bunch of accounting, and then I had to give the accounting to somebody else. So
Yeah.
and then basically those to me is the three pillars, right? It's sales, it's accounting, or the finances, and then operations. Those are the three pillars of your company, right?
Very good. So, and we're usually at the risk of completely oversimplifying things, we're usually three hires away from having those areas taken
Right,
care of. Because
right.
like people think I've got to hire here and there and like crews on the ground and marketing people and this and that. But ultimately, if we find really talented salesperson or somebody to take care of growth, really talented person to take care of ops, and really talented person to take care of the finances, they should come batteries included, or they should come with preloaded solutions from prior experiences and be
Hmm.
able to like help implement a bunch of this stuff as well. And almost
Right.
in a similar manner to, I really want to get to it eventually. You talking about buying other businesses,
Hmm.
we should be thinking about recruiting and hiring in the same manner. We're
Right.
buying a solution, somebody that's done it before, and they best thing ever is they come on a payment plan. You don't pay an annual salary in one lump sum. You pay it over weeks or months
Right.
annually. So this is great. So just to recap, it was like sales, then it was ops, like working with the crews, and then it was finance sort of thing. Um,
And so the next thing is really what happened is now I kind of created a machine, right? So it needs to be fed, right? So I needed to make sure that uh, my sales guy had enough leads coming in for everybody to keep busy, right? So then I started spending a bunch of time trying to figure out how can I make the marketing in a way that it consistently gives me the leads I need. And it worked pretty good to the point where my sales guy really doesn't have to go out and look for things. He can just look at the leads and pick out the ones we want to do. So that was the next thing I worked on, and I kind of like use outside companies to do it because I didn't feel like I should hire a full-time person to do it.
mm, nice. Okay. Um, I'm curious. A lot of people set up their sales teams and their sales compensations differently. Have you got a idea or a thesis or a core belief around how you like to pay your sales teams? Is it, commission only? Is it base and commission? Is it, how do you like to do things?
Well, I keep evolving on it and changing a little bit. I think, and I have two different models, but basically, I think well, one of my main sales guy, he's on commission only. If he doesn't bring anything in, he doesn't get paid. But the thing is, he brings in a lot, so he gets paid a lot, and the leads always come in, so that's not a big deal for him, right? For the developing sales guy, it's probably better to have a base and then compensate them once they hit a certain threshold,
Yeah,
like on a commission. So
no.
I feel like, for example, I have a boat cover guy. He gets paid the base, and then he gets paid after he sells like 40 boat covers. He gets paid an extra kicker per cover.
hmm Sure, sure. Nice. Okay, cool. tell me, were you always had the idea that you were going to buy other businesses? Is that something that just presented itself and you thought this is a good
No,
opportunity? Did you go out and find it?
I didn't really do that. In the beginning, definitely not. But what started happening was I'm at a local lake, and I started seeing inefficiencies because the only way for me to grow is to go out further away, right? So I have to get bigger territory.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a problem because it becomes very inefficient and you don't become cost effective if you're far away because that way customers have to pay more for your driving.
Mm.
So that didn't really work out that well. And the lakes I'm at, they're not, there's only so many people there, so that they cannot sell a lot more. Um, so then I started thinking, well, the only way to grow really is if at another place, at a different lake, about like maybe, whatever, 50 miles or 100 miles away. So we can work as a network, we can work together, but we can cut down on all the driving and the overtime.
Yeah, sure. I mean, totally makes sense. And then did you find the deal off market? Did you approach the owner? Did you just do a joint venture? Have you bought them outright? Is there a buyout
So,
period?
so
Like,
that, so once I decided that between starting my own place and buying somebody who's already doing it, I figured, well, why start over from scratch and just buy the guy who has the revenue already, and I know what I'm doing, so we're just taking it over and run it, right?
yeah.
But then I figured, well, I need to know how to do that. So I did a couple of those courses where how to buy a business without cash, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, like I don't know if you know Jeremy Harbour, but I did a Harbour course,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because I learned a lot about like the types of contracts you need to write, how to do it, where to find the deals. Um, so basically, I went to Facebook and I went into I'm in like a marine contractor group, and it's like, hey, anybody want to sell their business, And I got a whole bunch of people replying. It's like, oh yeah, me. And so I just started going around, and then I used my basically my sales script I got from learning how to do it,
Hmm.
and just basically asking questions and doing discovery and do they really want to sell and what's the time frame and those kind of things, and what do they want out of it? Do they want to retire or start another business or whatever. So and then it kind of whittled down to maybe five or so candidates, and then I made them all an offer, and then one stuck, and I bought them.
Excellent. Well done. So good. Is there, because like the school of training that I've come from around buying businesses is the law of price and terms. I don't know if Jeremy has a similar thing, but it's kind of like you can get the price, but you won't get the terms, or you get the terms, but you won't get the price. It's often
Mhm.
rare that you'll get both. And like the terms would be things like how the deal is structured, right? So whether the owner stays on, whether there's seller financing, buyer financing, whether there's a small business loan, whether there's cash up front or it's paid out of profits, whether we add this back in, that back in to reach a valuation and a multiple, it's all negotiable. So you get the price, but the terms might be terrible. How did you choose what was your priority in the purchasing? Did you want the owner to stay on for a little bit? Did you want them to move on and achieve retirement or whatever it was? Like, how have you transitioned and navigated that transition via either price or terms or just good management?
Right. So, from my first business, the first one I started, I bought, right? So, if it wasn't for the owner, I wouldn't know how to do all the things, right? So he taught me like in 3 months or so what to do. And then he left, right? And that was kind of a good time frame because it was always like, well, you know, it's your business, but I want to do it different, right? And so there was some friction there. So I basically, I asked them to stay for 90 days, but if they can transition their knowledge quicker, then I would be fine for them to not work the 90 days because I would be running the place. And so basically that's what I did with the place I bought. I asked him to stay on 90 days, and he did. And at the time, actually, I wasn't licensed in North Carolina, so he was basically the qualifier. And then and during that time, gave me enough time to get my North Carolina license too.
Hmm.
Um, and now, he's kind of like he doesn't work for me anymore, but he still does some work for us. He kind of works as a contractor now. He does some estimating for us. So, I mean, that all worked out, and we're friends. So,
Nice.
but yeah, that was. It's kind of like to me, it's not critical to me. The transition of knowledge is very important, but then whether or not they stay on or not is really up to them, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Excellent. So if you zoom out on almost anybody's story, it feels like it's just a very easy, obvious upward trajectory, right? There's a couple of things going on, but the reality of business ownership, as we all know, is that's not the case. When we're in the day to day, it can feel like it's chaos. And there are other periods where it's not going so well. What do you think
Mm.
have been some of your most expensive lessons or periods in time where things weren't going as particularly successfully?
Well, like during the COVID period, so I always used to do fixed contract, very simple.
Hmm.
And then when COVID hit, basically, for a lot of my projects, the time between you buy the materials and by the time you buy the or do the project, it could be like 6 months in between. So in COVID, prices used to go up 5 to 10% a month, right? So be having, buying something for $10,000 here, but then by the time it needs to be installed, I need to replenish material, and suddenly it's way more expensive. And my contracts didn't have a clause to go back and make sure that I can claw some of the money back. I didn't have a mechanism in there, so I had to eat all the loss on that stuff. So I basically at that point you asked me, do you put any of your own money in it? Well, I was kind of lucky that I had a couple $100,000 to put into it to make up for the loss, but that was kind of an expensive lesson. Uh, which looking back at it, it taught me another lesson that I should have enough cash in the business to not have this kind of problem,
Yeah.
so you can wipe out some of the storm.
Yes. So, um, two things. I want to start with like the more strategic long-term solution of like how you update your contracts. Did you just simply install a rise and fall clause? Did you have to completely rewrite them? Like what did you do on to make sure that if COVID happens again or anything, or did you just switch from fixed price to more hybrid? What have you done?
Yeah, so I basically I hired like an attorney, business attorney, and I explained the problem and I asked him, okay, what's the best way to structure this? And it came down to basically adding some clauses saying that, hey, if materials change by X% from this date, from the start of the contract, then there is going to be an upcharge.
Hmm. Yeah, nice. And then how do you make your decision about how much cash to keep in the business versus how much cash to pull out of the business for rainy day fund and things like that? Because the type of projects that you do, you have a higher cash velocity than, say, maybe like a custom home builder that has big, longer contracts, 18 to 24 months. So how do you make your decision? Because in theory, like you're collecting enough every invoicing cycle to maybe cover some of the expenses and fixed costs, but
Mhm.
do you choose to keep some aside? Like how did your decision making work around that?
Yeah, like I had to learn a lot about my finances, how it actually like in detail works, because I was constantly out of cash. And then I figured, well, I have $600,000 worth of aluminum sitting in my trailers or in my containers here. Maybe that's where all the cash is. So then I started figuring out, okay, it's really important to keep track of your inventory because that's where all your cash is hiding out. And then the same thing happened with the accounts receivable, where I had several out. It's easy to do if you do that many projects to suddenly have like $200,000, $300,000 in account receivable that you're not collecting, and you don't have that money in the bank, right? So um,
Mm.
tightening up those processes really were important for me to make sure that we have enough. We know, first of all, we know where the cash is and why it's there and how it's like doing cash flow statements. So I know what's coming up going forward. Looking out 6 months and figuring out how much you have coming in and going out on paper. So then you can adjust when it's coming up.
Mm.
Um, but typically, I would like to keep at least 3 months of expenses in the bank and kind of following like a profit first model.
Such a good book. Yeah, very good discipline to have. Makes total sense. So, you're talking about 3 months of expenses as in like your fixed costs sort of thing. So if we trim down our variables, we'd be able to cover 3 months of overhead.
Yeah, I'm either like, and I'm also thinking, I look at it either a fixed cost or I'm thinking like, 3 months of salaries, if I can, because I'm really more worried about salaries, not being able to pay the guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. Love it. So I imagine that people listening are at home are probably wondering like what softwares or systems, like how do you run this? Because I think you've done a very good job. And one of the key takeaways that I'm taking from this conversation is you do a good job of finding the person that is able to do that. I went and found an attorney to help with contracts. I went and found an ops manager. I went and found a salesperson who's good at sales. Like you went and you built the roster around what was required for the business. But
Mhm.
what infrastructure does that roster run on? Like what project management or accounting or reporting or like what does a software stack look like for you?
So again, that evolved, right? So in the beginning, I didn't have any like help or support or know how to do this business, right? So I started off doing everything on QuickBooks, right? And then that didn't really work for projects. And then we did everything with Kanban cards, kind of like little project cards.
Mhm.
And then what happened was the guys come back from the lake and they had like a whole stack of like web cards. They're all stuck together, and there's like 7 different jobs. I had no idea what they were. So that wasn't working. I needed to get away from that. And then then we started using Trello, which actually works wonderfully well. I used that for a while, but it has its problems too. It doesn't connect with your like financial systems, and it's really bad at like scheduling and communication and customer communication. So it doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
Then I did it a while. It's like I want everything in one system, so I went to Zoho One. And Zoho One works really good, but the connection between the CRM and the projects is really bad.
Sure.
The financial part is really good. I love that part of it. The CRM is really good. The project part sucks. So didn't really work out that well. And then everybody's saying, well, you need to go Builder Trend. It's like, okay, well, I'll try that. So I went to Builder Trend, tried that for maybe a year, and then I mean, it was just not intuitive for the guys. They couldn't really figure it out. It was like too disconnected. The parts were all there, but it wasn't like very easy to maneuver around and figure out what's going on. And the project managers had no idea how much profit they were making on these jobs, and um, it was just not working for us, right?
Mhm.
And now we moved on to JobTread, and JobTread does so far everything we want. The communication part is really good. It works it integrates with QuickBooks, so when the guys are the budgeting, they can immediately see what's their budgeted gross margins. They can track when the back costing comes in. They can track what's going on with the project if actually losing money or not.
Mhm.
So it's really like at some point as a business owner, you have to trust people that work for you and give them everything they need, right? So they can see all my numbers, they can see whatever they're making, and I'm just telling them, we need to have a 40% gross margin minimum, and we need to have a 10% net profit minimum. And if we do better, everybody gets bonuses. If we don't, nobody gets bonuses. So that's kind of how it's set up. But then for them to do that, they need to be able to see the numbers, and if they don't, then it's really hard for them to get excited or do anything or try to make it work or um,
Yeah.
but so
Uh,
now we're using JobTread and QuickBooks as the two main like software platforms, and then all my documentation is basically done in SharePoint
got it.
as
Nice.
we use Microsoft, so everything is Outlook, SharePoint.
Hmm.
We do use Snagit to make like SOPs, so I do video SOPs for training him. And to put those into SharePoint or
Excellent.
into JobTread so they can look them up there.
So good. And what have been some of like the key benefits that you've had going through the TBE program? Like from a system process, mindset, connection piece, like what have you found to be most beneficial for yourself?
I've done programs like this before, right? So I've done like Scalable,
Oh, Ryan
uh,
Dice at
I've
Scalable.
done Breakthrough Academy, I've done
Hmm.
that. Um, so the tool part and stuff is all kind of the same. what I like about TPB is the coaching aspect. I think the coaches are always good prepared and asking good questions, and I think the way they hone in on like um, asking you exactly what you're gonna do, and then they follow up and make sure you actually did that part. And if you don't, like they're gonna figure out, okay, looks like you're struggling with this, so you need to talk to this guy or do this training. I think that part works really well. And I think just the community and have other builders that I can only learn from guys who are uh, ahead of me, right? So I need to look guys that are doing twice the business that I'm doing and have 20 locations, right? So how did they get from 10 to 20? Those kind of things. So that's what the group has here, where you can connect with guys like that.
Mm.
That's what I like about it.
Nice. Awesome.
And they have all funny accents too.
Well, you must get that yourself, from coming from Europe over into the US as well, sort of thing. People must call you out on your accent as well.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, yeah. When we just did our tour of Texas and did all of our road shows, I asked this question at the end. I said, you know, we were going around, what's been your biggest takeaway so far? What's been your biggest takeaway? And yes, sir, what's been your biggest takeaway? That y'all sound so funny. It's like, okay, well, I appreciate that you got something from today. That's good. But no, that's cool. So I really admire how you've been so deliberate with your business, and you've gone through challenges and roadblocks, but you've managed to solve them by constructing people and constructing
Yeah.
process to work together. What does the next stage look like for you? What do you define success to look like? And where are you taking your business?
So I'm doing two things at the same time, really. Well, I'm doing a couple other things, but like first of all, I start talking to private equity guys and saying, what, like if you would buy somebody, what are you looking for, right? So I want to know, like, okay, what would be the minimum size for somebody to be interested in buying a company like mine, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing, and then it's like, okay, and for my company to be successful, I need to have these kind of systems in place for them to consider me. But basically what I'm looking for is best practices, right? So like what are they thinking that a good business should have to be considered good enough to be bought into a portfolio of other businesses like that. So so that's I'm doing kind of two things. One is I'm buying another company, and I'm trying to see how fast I can implement the systems I developed into the new place and how that's going to affect. Because I already see all kinds of operational inefficiencies they have, and just business things they're doing that are not very smart, that I can immediately create a gain in that buying that company, right? So
Mm.
that's one thing. The second part is basically looking at if I had to start one from scratch, what like can I use that same model to start it from scratch, like kind of like a franchise ID, but basically start with nothing, and then what do we need? What's the business in a box model for that location? Um, so I'm trying to figure out, will those two strategies work, and what do we need to do to fine tune? And that's really the next, I'm thinking 2 years or so, what I want to have figured out. And after that, it's basically just copy and paste, right?
Mm.
So I'm just going to buy more
Like it.
or start more. I want to figure out what's the best way to do it.
So there's a very good difference between some of the members that are in boardroom and some of the members that are in growth accelerator. And the one that I see is that most of the members that have a slightly different mindset. They go from builder to business owner, but when they're in business owner, they're still thinking of their projects as the product. Going from business owner to investor or entrepreneur is going from realizing that your projects aren't the product, your business is the product. So, like, how do we create the business as a sellable asset, as something that works with or without you, whether you choose to sell it or not? Like, that's the other mindset shift that I see people going through, and you are in that camp. You're looking at your business as the product, not your projects as the product.
No, I agree, and that's where I'm heading. So right now, I'm like really not involved with the projects or the customers at all. I don't really get involved with those at all. I wouldn't, if it's a big project, I know the customer name, but otherwise, I'm really uh, don't even talk to the customer. I'm not involved with them. What I do is I look at broken processes and how can we fix it? You know, how can we
Yeah.
make it more efficient, and how can we like if somebody starts complaining about something over and over again, or if we get like certain say we get a couple bad reviews, then there is a problem somewhere and we need to fix it.
Hmm.
So then that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to look at the systems behind it.
So good. Amazing. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank for, your journey? Because no man's an island. There's help and support that you've got. It sounds like you've done a lot of stuff with a lot of different people. Like, tell me, like, who should
Well,
get those flowers?
I'd like to thank my wife because initially she was also involved in my business, and then she was not. But she always really helped me and supported me. And I own another business. I own another property management business. I own a rental business. So I need to spend my time between the businesses, and then she's taking care of the other businesses, so I can focus on growing this one.
Mm,
Um, and we're doing the same thing in the other businesses too, but it's kind of like how we operate. So I want to thank her. And then I want to thank all the people in my team that, they show up for work every day and they put on all the effort. They really think, they think through things. They want to contribute. They want to look at how making things better. And they basically take the brunt of, problems and fix them for me before they actually get to me. They typically only get the problems when it's a big deal. So.
yeah. Yeah. Amazing. It's the thing that I love is I ask that question to everybody, and almost everybody says, I want to thank my wife. One of the biggest, most important decisions that you can make is like who you do life with. And it's amazing to see some of our most successful members have a phenomenal life partner alongside them. So it's awesome.
Yeah, so like I'm with my wife since we were 15, so we've been together forever.
Wow.
But obviously that wasn't a very good day when I said, "Honey, I'm just think maybe I'll stop the stop the corporate thing and we're gonna do this." We don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna do
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah. And then you go into it, we're going to build boat docks. She
Yeah,
goes,
like
what?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And it's like there is no ocean here.
It's so good. I love it. David, I appreciate your time so much. You've been incredibly insightful, very generous with your time and your knowledge and your insight. Thank you so much. What would you say to somebody that's leaving them with a last piece of advice? Like, what would you say to somebody that's in your position, but maybe 12, 18, 24 months ago, like some
Right.
previous you?
Well, I think the main things would be, things are always going up and down. I'm very much a laid back person. I don't really get upset about stuff. But when you run out of cash, or um, when you have a customer that's suing you, or your guys wreck a truck or something like that, you just have to look at it like, okay, that was a learning lesson, and let's try to figure out how to make it better next time so it don't won't happen again. And constantly, you got to keep going forward, and just put your best effort in, and don't give up. Like giving up is really like it's not an option. You have to go forward, and you have to reach out to other people who have been there, and try to create a group. What helps me a lot is have a group of business owners I talk to all the time, just local guys. I'm in a BNI group too. And I just call these guys up, and they're a totally different business. There might be a car business, or it might be, whatever, all different paint business. But I talk to these guys, but they're business owners, right? So they have all the same problems, and you can just talk through problems and things, and at the end of the day, they're all the same. So you can basically take some good advice and move forward.
So good. That's excellent advice. I love it. Well, David, thank you very much for your time. Virtual handshake. Appreciate you. And here's to seeing each other at the hopefully the US workshops and roadshows next year that we're planning. And all the best to you, your family, your business, and your other businesses as well.
Right.
Here's to the next
Right.
level. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Owen. Thank
Yeah.
you. It was
Awesome.
good.
Thank you so much. All right. Fantastic. Well, appreciate you, David. Have a good evening. Thank you very much for staying up. It looks like the sun's just about to set behind you. And
Oh, nice.
you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you online.
All right. Sounds good, Owen.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. You too.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.